I'm Tesla, and this is Magically Mindful. Here I share my journey of growth and what it means to live authentically through life's polarity, the messy and the magical, the highs and the lows, and everything in between. Think of this as an open diary for your soul, here to remind you that you're never alone. Breakups are weird. They are so weird. And this is such an interesting thing that I have recently been thinking about. And I'm excited to get into this with you and share where my headspace is around breakups. For some context, my ex and I have been broken up for a couple of months, and we were together for about 7.5 years. And throughout those 7.5 years, we had broken up a handful of times. And with that, having been broken up for a couple of months, wasn't long after that that I started dating my boyfriend, my current, my now, my man's, okay? It happened very quickly. And this perspective that has just become is that it's just surfaced for me in the last couple of weeks is how weird breakups are. And it's not what you think. This is not what you think it might be. I remember years ago, my boss at the time telling me, yeah, it's arguably harder to be in relationship than it is to be single in terms of working on yourself because when it's just you single, you are free in your own world, right? Of course, like we are going to have things that we're moving through, but being I'll always remember her saying that being single is easier in a lot of ways than it is being in a relationship. And with those handful of times with my ex where we had been broken up, I it was me, the one who initiated those breakups, but then it was also me who initiated getting back together. And that usually I think I very much they say this often about women that women check out of the relationship, you know, far before the man might, and then because of that, when it does come down to a breakup, the man may be more phased than the woman. And I definitely lived that because I already had checked out and I knew like, okay, this is something that I'm going to do. And so it's like, yeah, I had time on like the back end to mentally prepare. And because of that, I was always like, X amount of steps ahead, so to speak. And I never gave myself time to grieve because I was so focused on the future and just essentially getting out of the relationship because I wasn't happy. And then I would find myself being apart from my ex, being broken up, and then, a month or two would go by, and then I would finally be in a space where it was time to grieve, and that would push me back to him. And I mean, when I started dating him, I was 22. So, I'm 29 now, a few months away from my 30th birthday. And so that relationship with my ex was like practically the entirety of my 20s. And so, I was young and very attached to what had felt stable and familiar and secure for so many years. Now, being in this new relationship, recently I have found myself grieving my past relationship in a very interesting way, very unexpected. And this is why I'm like, wait, breakups are so weird because it has nothing to do with me wanting to go back to my ex and like having feelings for him and feeling like I rushed into a new relationship. No, it's nothing like that at all. Like I feel really good with where I'm at and I'm so incredibly grateful for my boyfriend. But being in relationship, especially being in one that is so aligned with the version of me today and is healthy, we in whether it's romantic or not, but, like, especially when it is romantic, like, we act as mirrors in relationships, and with that means, we will inevitably trigger one another, like, the ones that we love, whether it like I said, it is friends, family, lover, business, w these triggers will come up. And it is a beautiful thing because both my boyfriend and I, through being together, we are healing from past relationships that were no longer aligned for us, that like had become unhealthy. And it's so interesting because I found myself getting triggered in like little disagreements with my boyfriend. And, him and I worked through it no problem, but the pain that I was feeling from these little blips, the pain that I was feeling was from my past and with my ex because it was like that trigger made me feel like, my boyfriend had triggered something within me that reminded me of a time or times with my ex, and then I, like, was feeling the pain of that version of me who had to go through whatever that was, and so it was like, I wasn't even upset with my boyfriend, I was upset by, like, my past, and I've never truly experienced that before in this type of way, and it is very present for me because, like I said, I mean, both the breakup with my ex and then getting into a new relationship with my boyfriend, those things happened, you know, like, quickly within each other, and so I'm like, "Oh, this is so fascinating," because, yeah, I mean, if I was single, I wouldn't have that opportunity to be triggered in that way, and it was just so interesting because what happened a few days ago, like, I was crying, and I just don't really cry. I did a lot when I was younger, especially as a teenager. But I don't know, I feel like once my Gma passed away back in 2018, and, like, also when I was in, like, a toxic relationship with, like, someone who had narcissistic tendencies in my early 20s, like, when I was 19 and 20, I feel like I cried all of those tears. It's like I had no tears left to cry, and so, like, I will cry every now and then, but, like, I'm just not as emotional as I feel like I once was, and so when I do cry out of pain, like, that's rare, but it's so important to do that, like, I'm not saying that that's, like, a bad thing, like, that's a superpower, and we're all different, so, you might be listening and you're like, "Actually, I cry all the time," and I'm like, "I don't," and that's okay, um, but it's like that pain, it's like I'm still trying to kind of make sense of it, which is why I'm, like, always so excited to share here on the pod because it's like therapy. So I'm just, you know, thinking about, like, it's like I was crying for that version of me who bit her tongue one too many fucking times because it was like, I have no problem standing up for myself. Like, honestly, you could say I love to do it. Like, I love to use my voice, but it's like when we find ourselves in dynamics with certain people, and especially if there are patterns built over time, like I was crying, the pain that I was feeling, and I'm putting myself back in that situation of like being with my ex and in an argument or whatever, and then I'm thinking about, like, now presently, like, oh my god, like, it's like there's anger and there's frustration and there's hurt because I'm like, I feel so, I don't know if bad or sorry is the right word, it's not the right word, but, like, I think I have so much, like, empathy and compassion for that version of me because it's like, yeah, I got to this point in my relationship with my ex, and like I said, like, it was, like, just over 7 years, and it's like, I did stop speaking. I did stop using my voice in a lot of scenarios, and, like, I really am not a people pleaser, but when I think about it, I'm like, well, yeah, I was essentially and ultimately trying to keep the peace, but also because I got to a point where I was like, I don't have the fucking energy to, like, try and have this conversation again and just for it to go nowhere. And then how interesting to be with someone new and, like, feel these feelings and, like, to heal through it. Like, I don't know, it's just it's not something that I've ever experienced before. So I'm finding this very, like, fascinating. And then it's also kind of frustrating though because I'm like, there is frustration that I have towards, like, my past relationship in certain situations because then I'm, like, now in a new relationship and then I'm like, you feel, like, tainted or, like, scarred or whatever, right, by past circumstances, and then it's like, that sucks because I mean, you just think about the girlies who like, I've seen lots of girls talk about this online, like, when they're in super toxic relationships, abusive, like, bad, 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 and then they're with a really good guy, and I mean, this could go vice versa, it could be a guy, like, having left a toxic relationship with a woman, but, like, yeah, you're then with this new person, and then it's like you're self-sabotaging unintentionally because you're acting out of experience and, like, it's I mean, obviously what toxic relationships, narcissistic relationships does to your brain, and, like, I'm not saying that I was in that type of situation, but, like, that is just, like, on a more intense side of, like, that kind of spectrum, but, yeah, it's just, like, the frustration that I'm, like, feeling in these moments, I'm just like, "Fuck," like, I wish that my current boy like, my now boyfriend didn't have to deal with this. But, like, of course, like, we all go through things, and some people, they meet their person, like, one and done, and for other people, like, you date a lot of different people, and then they all, like, even though in the moment it might feel shitty, like, they all help you grow and evolve if you choose to, like, let that happen. But I'm just like I'm d it I also just feel like it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? This is the part that's really, like, mind fucky to me. It's like, I'm crying over an experience that happened with my ex because, like, an argument with my boyfriend and I, like, triggered this, right? And so then there I am, like, crying and trying to process this pain from my previous relationship, but then it's like because it's like my boyfriend is like, "Is there anything I can do for you?" Because here I am, I'm like, "I feel sad, I feel upset, and it's not your fault." And of course, he's like, "Is there anything I can do?" And I'm like, "No, there's not." Like, I don't even know what to do. And that's what's like, it's like we go through life, and more times than not, like when you break up with someone, you don't talk to them again. And, you know, I know that's not the case for everyone, but like when I think back to my exes, I don't talk to any of them. So, and I mean, yeah, like I can't say that the relationship with my ex like ended on the best of terms. So it's like, yeah, we're not on talking terms. And I'm just like, it's like now being out of the relationship and then trying to process different things. It's like, you might find yourself wanting to fucking say something and being like, "Hey, that was not okay," and, like, "This really upset me," or what, but then at the same time, it's like, "'Kay, but you're not in that relationship anymore, so why the fuck?" Like, that's why I'm just like, this is like it's like a dead end. And, I mean, just speaking my heart right now, it's, like, reminding me of, like, all of the beautiful tools in my toolbox, which are great. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, you need to cut cords with people and, like, journal and, like, write a letter to them, but burn it and, like, do hey, don't do that. And do all the things to help you for you. But if we find ourselves, like, feeling, like, unresolved with an ex, like, that's just a shitty feeling, but that's, like I guess that's just life. Like, it's like that's just kind of the way that it is. And also with all of this being said, like, I was not fucking perfect. I'll never be perfect. Like, I I'm sure there are lots of things that, like, my ex he could be feeling the same way, being like, "Yeah, there's a lot of things that I feel upset me that, like, I did to him," or however we wanna say this, and then it's like, yeah, it's not like he's coming to me being like, this and that and the other thing, and I'm like, but that's what made me have this thought that, like, breakups are so fucking weird because, like, and, like, that just I mean, life can just be so weird because, I mean, there are so many scenarios beyond breakups where it's like you you and another person or a situation might forever be unresolved, and, like, there's nothing we can do about it. And I just as an almost 30-year-old, I'm just like, I have lots more life to live and lessons to learn and wisdom to gain, but I just find this so interesting to be moving through this right now because I don't know. I I don't fucking know. Like, that's why I'm just like, this is interesting because I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I I think it is such a blessing to find yourself in a healthy relationship for a multitude of different reasons, but for the, in the sense that I'm speaking about this, I'm just like, yeah, like when there were toxic aspects of my past relationship, like from both ends, not just from his end, like from my end too. And like, it's not that it was inherently toxic. Like, ultimately, I feel like the nail no, what is it? The thing that broke the camel's back? Whatever that saying is, was just, like, the bare bones, like, strip it down black and white was just the fact that, like, from having been together throughout the entirety of our 20s, give or take, like, we had inevitably developed patterns that still after so much time, like, nothing was really changing, and so that in itself is toxic, and it's like so that's when I say toxic, like, I'm not meaning, like, yeah, there was, like, like, textbook, like, bad stuff, like, all relationships have their moments, and I think ultimately I just like, I wasn't truly happy and, like, I was confused and whatever, but, I don't even really wanna get so into that, but I just have a lot of gratitude to be with a man that is strong and not like, in who he is and, like, in his own identity that he can be a safe place for me to simultaneously while, like, cultivating and growing and strengthening our own relationship, that there's also the spaciousness and, like, him being okay with that, like, space for me to be able to heal from my past relationship, because that doesn't always happen, like and I mean, yeah, like, we're both almost 30, and so I do think this comes, like, with age as well, but I mean, fuck, people could be in their 40s and still have this kind of issue, like, of if you are insecure, then, like, because there will be, like, time like, often I will be like, "Hey, like, I'm feeling this way because this thing happened, like, with my ex," and, like, for some people, that could trigger them and then be like, "Oh, so you wanna get back with them?" And I'm like, "No," like, I say that in the moments to provide the context for my boyfriend so that, he can be there to help me navigate that. And that's so important that I'm communicating that as well, because if I wasn't, then this would look very differently. Like, we probably would be bickering because I'd be projecting shit onto him, and then he'd be like, "Well, what the fuck?" But, like, obviously cancel, clear, delete that. But, yeah, I have so much gratitude to be able to heal from my past relationship by being in this new relationship. And, like, you know, I have a friend who, like, when everything was happening in real time, like the breakup and then, like, getting into a new relationship, he's like, "So how long were you single?" Like, and then he knew, like, the history with my ex of, like, the breaking up and getting back together. So, he was kinda like, Tesla, are you sure? Like, do you need time alone?" But every interpersonal relationship that we have with people is so vastly different. Like, of course, there's themes and similarities, but, like, the intricacies of, like, you and someone and me and my boyfriend or whatever, like, it's so different. Like, only those two people within the dynamic are gonna understand it. But aside from that, like, a big reason why I was unhappy in my past relationship was because, like, 9 out of 10 times, I felt like I was single while I was in the relationship. Was I acting like a single person and going out and flirting with people? No, but I felt very alone, and I'm sure like, I can't speak for my ex, and so I won't, but I felt very alone, and it it I think in the past, like, I had no problem just, like, trying to put myself out there when I would find myself single because I'm like, "Oh, I've felt alone for so long even though I was in relationship." And so, like, I am looking to, like, be with someone. But it is interesting because I didn't necessarily feel that when the breakup did happen a few months back, I was very much like, "Okay, like, what is it? It's if you do the same thing over and over and you're expecting different results, but you're doing the exact same thing over and over, like, that's insanity or whatever." Like, so I was like, "Let me take what I've learned from the history with my ex and, like, let me not repeat it." So, yeah, I will make sure that I am not just being like, "Yeah, I wanna date someone new." Like, I was like, "No, like, I can be single. That's not a fucking problem," you know? But 2 things can be true. Like, I'm also very happy that I'm not single right now, like, and I'm very grateful, like, to have found my person and, like, all of these things, and I'm definitely excited to share more about that in time. But, yeah, it's crazy because, like, the fire horse energy of 2026 is no joke, and that was, like, my first experience with it was, like, my long-term relationship ended, and then, I quickly I can't snap my fingers, I wish I could. And then I quickly entered a new relationship, but it wasn't from a place of, like, desperation, loneliness, lack. It wasn't forced, it wasn't rushed, like, yeah, like, on paper, okay, this happened fast, but it didn't, like, feel that way in my body, like, it felt so aligned and so nourishing and so grounded and so right. So, like, I really have no fucking regrets. I just I'm intrigued to see how like, how this will all pan out of, like, healing from my past while being in the present with someone new. So thank you for being here while I share my brain with you and I navigate and explore this beautiful new era of life. And I will be sharing more along the way as more unfolds. So for now, that is that, and I'll see you in the next one. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone you love, and let's keep the conversation going on Instagram at Magically Mindful Podcast. For collaborations and partnerships, email magicallymindfulpodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, please leave us a review so we can continue to grow this amazing community.